Good evening and welcome again to the Canadian Orthodox Monastery of All Saints of North America and the Orthodox Church of America. This evening we're going to begin a series of discussions, dialogues if you will, with the Southern Baptist Church. A Southern Baptist professor by the name of Matt Spann recently issued an ideological manifesto which is called basically Witnessing to Orthodox Christians, how to convert Orthodox Christians to Christ. The suggestion throughout his document is that Orthodox Christians do not know Christ and cannot have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And the things that he suggests form a barrier to this personal relationship are authority and sacred tradition, the ancient church's doctrine of God, and the original Christian doctrine of the fall of man and the nature of sin, the original Christian doctrine of the understanding of grace, the traditional Christian understanding of the concept of salvation, and so forth. And I emphasize the ancient church tradition because Protestant understandings of salvation, the meaning of Golgotha and the cross, the nature of man, are very heavily influenced by Gnosticism, an anti-Christian tradition that began quite early, used some Christian ideals and even called themselves Christians. To answer step by step these assertions of Mr. Spann and offer reasons why Southern Baptists should diligently seek to understand Orthodox Christianity and come to the true and living faith, the apostolic faith, the Orthodox Christian faith. And I want to begin by saying two things. First of all, one of the main criticisms of evangelical Protestants is about sacred tradition, and the other about the hierarchical structure of the church. And also the Protestant assertion that they can have sola scriptura, or scripture only, without any kind of tradition. First of all, one of the great catastrophes that has enveloped Western society and culture actually originates with the Protestant Reformation and grew slowly century by century on the basis of evangelical Protestant distaste for sacred tradition and their teaching that somehow tradition was bad. Now, granted, Mr. Spann's ideology, as he expresses it here, is informed by the usual evangelical Protestant arrogance and condescension, the kind of self-righteous triumphalism that so predominates in evangelical Protestantism, along with the rather cruel and harsh vision of God. But sad to say, much of his misinformation and misunderstanding comes from Orthodox Christian catechisms and from his reading of certain writers in the Orthodox Church who are really very scholastic and not particularly Orthodox. I have in mind such people as old Carmeris and others from that particular era, maybe Theophan of Poltava and his disciples in North America, who are really hyper-scholastic and, in many cases, neo-Gnostic. So the writings of some of these people, Trimbelis and others like that, have so misinformed people of the Orthodox faith that we realize that Orthodox Christians are also misinformed about it. So while we have this dialogue with the Southern Baptists, we're also having a dialogue with Orthodox Christian people who have so many misconceptions about the Orthodox faith itself, and why and how these misconceptions developed. But first of all, I want to look at the crisis that was generated by the Protestant denigration of tradition. We so often now hear Protestants lamenting and saying we want to return to traditional values. We want to return to traditional understanding of marriage, a traditional understanding of the family. And we say, what? Traditional? But for 600 years, you said that tradition was bad, especially religious tradition. Now, you see, it is upon the sacred tradition, the real understanding of the divine scripture has been founded. Now, when you start teaching that sacred tradition is bad, that is religious tradition, then what do you have? Secular tradition? Because every society and culture is founded on some kind of tradition. So you teach 600 years, year after year, decade after decade, century after century, that tradition is bad. And little by little, younger generations begin to take you seriously and believe you. If tradition is bad, then what you consider to be traditional family values, traditional marriage, traditional ethics, traditional morality, they're all traditional, you see, so they're bad. They're something that keeps one in bondage, that keeps one from knowing the truth, that keeps one from coming to the fullness of life. So if we want to have a real life, if we want to be intelligent human beings, we have to reject all these traditions. Traditional family values, traditional morality, traditional understanding of marriage, all these are tradition. And you said they were bad. So you see, little by little, Protestantism, and particularly evangelical Protestantism and fundamentalism, has collapsed the reverence for every traditional structure that has helped to shape and make our society decent and moral, and forced people into experimentations which help to collapse the moral structure of society. And more guilty than any other source in our society is evangelical Protestantism, the destroyer of the traditions upon which the faith was based and upon which a decent moral culture has been based. And since we have only 10 minutes to speak, we'll have to carry out this discourse over some period of time. So we urge you to join us, to stay with us, to write in and send your questions, that we might include them in this dialogue. Thank you, and God bless you all.